8 sequential lessons from Think and Grow Rich. So, many of my videos I talk about how I actually go back and reread this book, revisit the contents of the book regularly, and reflect upon them and figure out ways to integrate them in whatever goals, desires, aspirations that I choose to see brought forth. Today I want to discuss this book from a perspective of 8 sequential lessons that I believe will be very affirmative and contributing to what you desire to see brought forth, whatever your goals and aspirations may be. The journey to the realization of a goal is one where most of us encounter aspects of ourselves, fears, doubts, indecisions, disempowering programming that is revealed in our inner conversations, what we imagine as potentialities that we call disempowering, or outer world circumstances. Now, the outer world circumstances reveal to us about ourselves and our ability to transcend the meaning that we give to those outer world suggestions, and in the process realize what we desire to bring forth, as he refers to as the definite chief aim. That stated, let's get into discussion regarding these 8 sequential lessons. Lesson number 1, the realization that thoughts are things. He says, truly, thoughts are things, and powerful things that, when they are mixed with definiteness of purpose, persistence, and a burning desire for their translation into riches or other material objects. Thoughts are things. The thoughts that we think, which is revealing to what we are imagining each day, as well as our inner conversations and our interpretations of people, environment, circumstance, and information in the outer world and ourselves in relation to them, are in the process of being externalized or are externalized. That's what we mean by thoughts are things. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that every thought will be externalized, because it's the dwelling on the thought that brings it forth. So if you think a thought, then it's important to observe how and why you are dwelling on that thought. And if it's an undesirable thought, we want to change the meaning of why we are dwelling on that thought so we can release from it and associate with, essentially dwell in a thought that is in harmony with what we desire to experience or create. That's what is meant by thoughts are things. He says one of the most common causes of failure is the habit of quitting when one is overtaken by temporary defeat, outer world, circumstance, or experience in which we interpret as an obstacle, or surrender, or defeat, when in actuality these are the meanings that we are associating, usually from past experiences, programming, assumptions, and beliefs about ourselves. We have the power to change these thoughts using the process of autosuggestion, which we're going to talk about in a moment. But I thought I'd put this first so that we can recognize how thoughts are things. And if we experience failure on the journey, then we ask ourselves, what does this failure really mean? Does it mean that we can find a way through this failure by changing how we relate to what we would call this failure? Or are we going to allow this circumstance to determine the fate of what we desire to create? In other words, that we're going to stop at this particular moment and give up. That is what is meant to be overtaken by temporary defeat, interpreting the circumstance or outer world experience as the final. So in order to do that, we go through a journey in which I call purification of the mind. And this is essentially purification of the mind from failure consciousness to success consciousness in the area that you are looking to find success in. He says, a great many years ago, I purchased a fine dictionary. The first thing I did with it was to turn to the word impossible and neatly clip it out of the book. That would not be an unwise thing for you to do. Very interesting. turn to the word impossible and neatly clip it out of the book. Now, what he's referring to here is an externalization of a thought process in which he refuses to accept this idea of impossible. When we identify with this word impossible, we're likely to see it show up on the journey to the realization, the fulfillment of what we desire to be brought forth. For example, if we encounter something, outer world circumstance, which may appear to deny that you are going to create what you desire to create or experience what you desire to experience, then one of the questions we want to ask ourselves is, do we believe in the word impossible? One of my favorite quotes from the Bible is, "If thou canst believe, all things are possible to him that believeth." That is something that I have been affirming for years. And it was one of the determining factors for producing results and will continue to be the determining factor for producing results. The understanding that all things are possible. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that you want to experience all things. What you're interested in is experiencing what you desire to be brought forth. We want to take an inventory of the different beliefs that we have about ourselves in relation to circumstances that reveal themselves on the journey and ask ourselves, are we associating either directly or indirectly with the concept of impossible in relation? Now, as we release through the autosuggestions, which we'll talk about in a moment, we develop what is called success consciousness. So he says, success comes to those who become success conscious. Failure comes to those who indifferently allow themselves to become failure consciousness. Key distinctions. Allow themselves. So I believe it's not our natural state to be in failure consciousness. It's just that we've allowed ourselves to believe that we can affirm failure consciousness through our beliefs about what we are experiencing on the journey and call that fate or circumstance beyond our control. The truth is, we'll start to realize how it is within our control when we realize that it's possible to see how it is within our control. He says the object of this book is to help all those who seek it to learn the art of changing their minds from failure consciousness to success consciousness. That is the entire premise of the book. Changing their mind, or more accurately put, being who you truly are. I call this the true self. Many of us will encounter on this journey to creating success after success after success this concept of ourself called the true self, in which we truly allow ourselves to receive the desires from within and transmute them into what he calls the burning desire. Let's talk about that. Number 3, receiving desire and transmuting into burning desire. Every person who wins in any undertaking must be willing to burn his ships and cut out all sources of retreat. Only by doing so can one be sure of maintaining that state of mind known as a burning desire to win, essential to success. Now, by burning desire to win, it means realizing your desire, experienced in reality. That's what winning means, you having your experience. There's no competition unless we create competition in our mind and choose to experience a pathway riddled with competition with others, circumstance, information. Instead, it's recommended to choose the path of least resistance, which is revealed through intuition on the journey, through affirming the path of least resistance, through autosuggestion, which we'll talk about in a moment. But we always want to remember that if there's any kind of doubt, fear, indecision, we have this potentiality that we are not going to get to our destination. Then when he says burning the ships and cutting out all sources of retreat, he's not talking about it from a place of force, but rather from a place of realization. That what we allow in our consciousness, in other words, the beliefs, the assumptions, the interpretations, the perspectives of ourselves in relation to our goal and in relation to our experiences on the journey to the realization of what we desire to create will be externalized as what we call experience. And we have the power to change our experience to make the journey as joyous as the destination, with each aspect of ourselves that is revealed on the journey. Now, you don't have to do this all at once. Certainly, I've been studying this information for many years and constantly practice purification of the mind. Now, when I say receiving desire, I believe the desire comes from what he calls infinite intelligence. And through this infinite intelligence, the desire is to bring forth the desire, plus in the journey, purify our mind, release from fear, doubt, indecision, disempowering-based programming. And this is done through the concept of autosuggestion. Now, in the process of releasing the fears, doubts, and indecision through autosuggestion, we transmute the desire into a burning desire. He says you may complain that it is impossible for you to see yourself in possession of money before you actually have it. Here's where a burning desire will come to your aid. If you truly desire money so keenly that your desire is an obsession, you'll have no difficulty in convincing yourself that you will acquire it. The object is to want money and to become so determined to have it that you convince yourself that you will have it. Now, the concept of convince, as discussed here, refers more to accuracy. I see it more as realization that the outcome is yours. You have desired it. You have the potentiality to create it because the desire was received from within via infinite intelligence, and as a result, you have the ability then and the responsibility to convert this desire into what he calls the burning desire. The burning desire is realized, and you can notice how you carry yourself through your thoughts, your emotions, your behaviors, and your interpretation of outer world, people, environment, circumstance, and information as a result of the burning desire. As you release from disempowering programming of yourself in relation to your goal, in relation to people, environment, circumstance, and information, through the concept of autosuggestion, you will automatically experience what is called the burning desire. I also call this being autotelic and being in flow. When you are in a burning desire, when you have the burning desire, it is not from a place of force. It's from a place of, as Neville Goddard puts it, it is already done. It is the realization that once you receive your desire, that you confirm and you affirm that you will have your goal, and that you are automatically then moving on the journey, autotelically, flow-based, to the realization of that particular desire in which you are experiencing the burning desire. And to experience more of the burning desire, we release from fears, doubts, indecision-based programming. Let's talk about that through the concept of autosuggestion. Number 4, autosuggestion, affirmations of who you truly are. Now, when you receive the desire from infinite intelligence, it is contributing to helping you realize your true self. So it's not just about the success you bring forth, it is about the realization of who you really are in the process of bringing forth your destination, your success, your dreams, your aspiration, in which I call the true identity as well. We all have a self-image, an identity, and we have a higher self, higher version of ourselves, true self-based identity. And one of our goals, should we choose to experience this in our life, is to realize more so each day this true self, who we really are. This is the honoring of the desires and transmuting it into a burning desire and realizing it through purification of the mind, which is changing disempowering beliefs about ourselves in relation to others, people, environment, circumstance, and information on the journey, till we realize, as he puts it here, be willing to burn his ships and cut out all sources of retreats, which are just beliefs. It's not in the outer world. Those are externalizations. It's in the inner world. It says, your ability to use the principle of autosuggestion will depend very largely upon your capacity to concentrate upon a given desire until that desire becomes a burning obsession. Again, not done from a place of force, but rather from a place of it's already done. Watch the video I did on the discussion, It's Already Done, with Neville Goddard, and realize that there's a distinct difference between force and realizing that it is done. Once you know that you are going to achieve your end result through the subconscious mind work, which is done in this regard through autosuggestion. As mentioned many times in my videos, I use 4 modalities: subconscious mind audios, self-talk, revision, and environment, choosing environments that are affirmative towards the destination, which can include masterminds, which we'll talk about in a moment. And he says, through the dominating thoughts which one permits to remain in the conscious mind, whether these thoughts be negative or positive, is immaterial. The principle of autosuggestion voluntarily reaches the subconscious mind and influences it with these thoughts. So this is how we do it. You already know what you're desiring to see brought forth. Each day you are on the journey to the realization of this destination. And as a result of it, you may experience fears, doubts, and indecision-based programming within your own mind and externalized as outer world experience. At that particular moment, you pause and you take a note of it. You journal it. And at the end of the day, you reflect upon those assumptions and beliefs and interpretations of reality that disempower you. And you create subconscious mind affirmations. And ideally, you would want to record them and listen to them on loop and fall asleep to those subconscious mind audios. And as you listen to them, allow yourself to believe them more so. Not just listening to them mindlessly, but affirming them on the subconscious. For example, if we were to take the first 4 parts here and turn this into an affirmation, and my affirmations tend to be lengthier and woven together like a story, because what I find is that this helps me affirm more so and change the programming around to bring it more in alignment with what I desire to experience. So you could say, I realize more so each day how thoughts are things. I'm able to be present and aware to observe how my thoughts externalize as people, environment, circumstance, and information-based experiences. Through this journey, I have a greater degree of desire to purify my mind into a higher degree of success consciousness. I realize that my desires are received within from infinite intelligence, and I have the power to transmute them into a burning desire by autosuggestion and affirmations to realize who I truly am, which is a person that is in alignment with what I desire to bring forth. Through this power, I'm able to identify any disempowering programming that shows up. I feel joy and excitement as it shows up as I write it down and reflect upon it in the end of the day and turn each one of the disempowering programming elements that are contained within my consciousness into empowering programming that is in line with success consciousness. And another example would be is, let's say on the journey you encounter disempowering programming that you feel people are always looking down upon you. You say, more and more so each day I realize that people are inspired by me, uplifted by me. I realize this through my thoughts, my emotions, my behaviors, and my interactions with people each day. Every day I realize that people are more embracing and in harmony with who I am. This increases as I find myself to a higher degree of understanding how my thoughts reflect as outer world experiences with people. So let's go into number 5, faith as the visualization of the unwavering belief in attainment of your desire. So as you continue to affirm using your autosuggestions and release from the disempowering programming on the journey to the realization of your desire, you may receive plans, hunches, and inspirations within. These are received via intuition and perhaps needed to be acted upon. And if you have a hard time acting upon this, plans that are received within, then what you can do is understand where the resistance is within. And then you can allow yourself to express these plans on the journey to the realization and the fulfillment of what you desire to be brought forth. He says, do not wait for a definite plan through which you intend to exchange services or merchandise in return for the money you are visualizing. But begin at once to see yourself in the possession of the money, demanding and expecting meanwhile that your subconscious mind will hand over the plan or plans you need. The moment you affirm and you realize it's done, right away or in the days to follow, plans will be received via your inner voice or your intuition within. Signs and synchronicities may be experienced in the outer world to guide you towards this plan. The more purification you do in your mind from disempowering programming, the faster the plans show up. I'll speak from experience on this. That's why it's very important to constantly be removing disempowering fears, doubts, and indecision-based programming. He says, be alert for these plans, and when they appear, put them into action immediately. When the plans appear, they will probably flash into your mind through the sixth sense in the form of an inspiration. This inspiration may be considered a direct telegram or message from infinite intelligence. He says, treat it with respect and act upon it as soon as you receive it. See, the reason why I made a decision to myself that as soon as I receive these plans, I'm going to act upon it right away, is to further release myself from fears, doubts, and indecision. Because if you receive a plan, you get the intuitive nudge to act upon it, but you don't act upon it, you run the chance of identifying with the fears and doubts that come along as a result of not identifying with it, which leads to stagnation and procrastination. Now, if you identify that procrastination is revealed on the journey about yourself, in other words, part of your identity is this concept of procrastination, you can release from it through affirmation. Perhaps an affirmation like this. More so each day I realize that I find myself taking immediate action on the hunches and inspirations that are received within via my intuition. These actions bring me forth, further propelling me into a deeper degree of flow towards the realization and fulfillment of what I desire to experience. He says, repetition of affirmation of orders to your subconscious mind is the only known method for voluntary development of the emotion of faith. As Neville Goddard puts it, faith is loyalty to the unseen reality. When we imagine something which is based on a heart desire, that represents the unseen reality which will one day be experienced in the seen reality, as in this outer world. And faith is loyalty to the unseen reality. If we are not loyal to the unseen reality, then we have programming within ourselves, fears, doubts, indecision, disempowering programming within ourselves that causes us to doubt that we are going to experience what we are desiring to experience. And we have the power to change it using subconscious mind audio, self-talk, revision, or environment, or the principle of mastermind. Let's talk about mastermind. Number 6, guarding the garden of your mind with the mastermind principle. He says the mastermind may be defined as coordination of knowledge and effort in a spirit of harmony between two or more people for the attainment of a definite purpose. This is bringing together a group of people that you can connect with, relate with, which is essentially your environment, that are in the spirit of harmony. Joining a mastermind or a group of people, having a team together that is in alignment, in the spirit of harmony. Perhaps they have the same goals, or they have their own goals and are experiencing different circumstances on the journey, and together you can identify the disempowering programming and create subconscious mind autosuggestions together and release from them. Practice accountability to release from the disempowering programming. That would be a mastermind. What is also brought forth in the mastermind is ideas, hunches, and inspirations as a result of the collective minds coming together to create the mastermind, bring forth infinite intelligence via the mastermind. You can also combine this with the concept called invisible counsel, which is essentially having a mastermind in the world within, in which I talk about in my Invisible Counsel video. I'll put a link in the description. Now, through the Invisible Counsel and the mastermind, one has a greater ability and harmony. It's a state of mind when we are one with infinite intelligence. This is also known as the sixth sense. He says the sixth sense is a portion of the subconscious mind which has been referred to as the creative imagination. It has also been referred to as the receiving set through which ideas, plans, and thoughts flash into the mind. The flashes are sometimes called hunches or inspirations. Now, you'll notice this. In certain states of mind, ideas, hunches, and inspirations show up. This is how you know you are one with infinite intelligence in that state of mind. You'll also notice this when you are in interactions with others who resemble the mastermind. Certain environments facilitate the sixth sense and infinite intelligence. Very important to remember this. He says before you can put any portion of this philosophy into successful use, your mind must be prepared to receive it. The preparation is not difficult. It begins with study, analysis, and understanding the three elements which you shall have to clear out. These are indecision, doubt, and fear. The sixth sense will never function while these three negatives or any of them remain in your mind. The members of this unholy trio are closely related. Where one is found, the other two are close at hand. He says, indecision is the seedling of fear. Remember this as you read. Indecision crystallizes into doubt. The two blend and become fear. The blending process often is slow. This is one reason why these enemies are so dangerous. They germinate and grow without their presence being observed. The simple way to do this is to observe if you find yourself in any environments that infuse your mind with indecision, doubt, and fear-based programming as a result of being in that environment. Notice how you feel afterwards. If you feel disempowered now towards your goal and the way you want to see your goal brought forth, you have the power then to go within and inventory yourself and create autosuggestions and release from that. And then make a commitment that you're going to make a decision on whether that environment is right for you or not. Now, it's not just the outer world environment, it's your inner world environment. We're speaking of the garden of the mind. Outer world and inner world contributes to maintaining a harmonious garden of mind. And it is in this garden of mind where, through the hunches, flashes, and inspirations, and even what I found, empowering programming, assumptions, beliefs, and interpretations and perspectives on the different experiences that you are having on the journey, the circumstances, the environments on the journey, this is received within by maintaining the state of mind that is most in alignment with infinite intelligence. I call this flow. And when you're in flow, you will find a higher degree of autotelic. Now watch the discussion I did on flow by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi and make a commitment to yourself that you're going to maintain a flow state, as well as identify whatever breaks your flow and change within yourself how you relate to whatever elements that may only appear to cause you to break your flow, but the cause is within, and change the cause within. Now, as a result of this, we can move into number 8, turning procrastination into decision. Upon successful integration of these concepts, you'll notice that procrastination will be a thing of the past. Because as you have released and purified your mind of so much fears, doubts, and indecision-based programming and disempowering programming related to yourself and others and information, environment, circumstance, you'll find yourself automatically allowing yourself to express, autotelic and in flow. At that point, you are a decisive person. It's easier to make decisions. You trust your intuition, you're able to reflect on accurate thinking, and your heart and your mind are connected. I always say this, the heart desires and the mind creates in harmony. He says the majority of people who fail to accumulate money sufficient for their needs are generally easily influenced by the opinions of others. They permit the newspapers and the gossiping neighbors to do their thinking for them. Very important, if we allow the opinions of others or information sources to interfere with our garden of our mind and what we're looking to experience in this reality, we will find ourselves then in states of indecision, doubt, and fear. We want to identify the source of this and release ourselves from those elements. This is called keeping the garden of the mind. And as he goes deeper into this, he says, keep your own counsel. When you begin to put into practice the principles described here by reaching your own decisions and following them. Take no one into your confidence except the members of your mastermind group, and be very sure in your selection of your group that you choose only those that are in complete sympathy and harmony with your purpose. Close friends and relatives, while not meaning to do so, often handicap through their opinions and sometimes through ridicule, which is meant to be humorous. This means that you have to be able to differentiate what is related and what is not. And you will be able to identify based on how you feel with the interactions. Although many people have different opinions and interpretations and perspectives, beliefs, assumptions on reality, some of these may not be in alignment with what you desire to see brought forth. And if you identify with this meaning, you may find yourself in fear, doubt, and indecision-based identification, which you will experience as emotional turmoil, frustration, and stress on the journey. Thus, it's important to identify the sources of this programming and change your beliefs and assumptions within. And as he mentions here, if you are really interested in creating the end result, then make sure that you keep your counsel, your mastermind, your invisible counsel, and ensure that these elements are in complete sympathy and harmony with your purpose. If you want to copy this mind map, the link is in the description. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.